afternoon, everyone. A bit of a different time zone for me than usual. Uh, Hope you're all having a good day so far. And yeah, thank you for joining us, obviously, for this week's AMA. For those joining us for the first time, my name is Alcatraz. I'm the lead designer at Raini Studios, working on our flagship title, The Lords of Light, which is a competitive trading card game currently about to go into open beta, although we're kind of in like an open alpha stage at the moment. And yeah, we'll go around the virtual table to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. And then, yeah, like always, we're just going to basically answer questions from the community and chat about the very big week that we've just had in the Rainiverse. I guess we'll go left to right. Mindspheres.
Hey, I'm Mindspheres. I am one of the co-founders of Raini Studios. I am currently in New York, where it is a bit cold. Great to be here. Along with Artken. Artken, you want to jump in?
Sure, man. Yeah. Mindspheres and I have been in America for about a week now. We started in Miami, which was a good transition because the temperature is a bit warmer, like it is in Sydney at the moment, coming to the end of summer. But then it was much colder when we came to New York. In any case, we're lining up a whole bunch of meetings. We're going to be at Vegas to join Alcatraz. Tomorrow night we fly there for DICE, and there's an MGS talk. We're going to finish with ETH Denver, the core event. And in between, we're going to be spending some time in San Francisco. So, yeah, been a little bit more difficult to juggle all the Rainy responsibilities while traveling, but yeah, it's been a really big week. So great to see how everything's gone, and cool to check in. I'll pass it on to Drasnibar.
Good morning, everybody. Just Drasnibar, just coordinating all the questions for the guys. We've got all the big guns in here today, which is fantastic. So over to them.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I forgot. I keep forgetting it's Arkin, yourself and Mindspheres. You guys are over in New York, so a little bit chillier than it is for me right now, sitting literally staring out the window over the top of my laptop at the moment, looking at Las Vegas Boulevard. So yeah, definitely a bit more of an interesting view than where I normally host the AMAs from. But yeah, definitely it's been a fun trip so far over here. A lot of meetings, a lot of stuff that we're lining up. A lot of stuff, obviously, that we're hoping to be able to talk to the community about very, very soon. But yeah, definitely a bit of fun. And good morning, Cackling Hatter 23 from Perth. I won't make any of the usual Perth jokes, but yeah, always good to have another fellow Aussie on the stream. Cool. So I guess just a super quick recap. Since our last AMA in the past week, a lot of stuff has happened in the Rainiverse. The biggest one obviously being that the 7 Deadly Sins set, the mint for that went live on last Tuesday, on Valentine's Day. Unfortunately was delayed a few hours. If you follow Ethereum gas prices, you'll know why. Ethereum was very, very interesting last week. We happened to launch our set almost directly against a very, very large other project's mint / airdrop / kind of a scam thing. But anyway, so yeah, obviously had to push that mint back just by a few hours, just so everyone wasn't paying 800 Gwei in gas fees there. Yeah, so we had the 7 Deadly Sins set that went really well. Like the whole team, super excited to see everyone's response and see everyone start getting to crack their packs and see what's in them. Obviously, all the bundles are completely sold out, but there are still some packs available. If you check the links on all of our socials, you'll be able to see the link there, or in the latest Rainy Medium has the link there as well. The other big bit of news coming out of the Rainiverse was on Saturday, Friday night, Saturday morning, depending where in the world you are. We held the grand final for our Campai Pandas RTLOL tournament, the one that started the previous weekend. 56 competitors had played down to 2, and we had the privilege of live streaming the actual finals for the first time between Huncho, and Trixo. And yeah, as everyone who has watched that video since will attest, a huge congratulations to our reigning back-to-back champion, Huncho, who, yeah, we've held 3 tournaments recently, December, January, and February, and Huncho has miraculously, against all odds, taken out all 3 of those events. Arkin, I know you were co-hosting at the time, and we were just both of us trying to figure out who can end Huncho's reign of terror. Any thoughts after the final as to what someone might need to do to try and finally take the throne away?
Yeah, I think that we have some contenders. So we also recorded and watched in real time the quarterfinals and semifinals the weekend prior. And interestingly enough, there was a very close match between Huncho and George Saruman. So I feel like George actually took the first game and then came very close to winning the second game. That if that went in his favor a little bit more, if some luck plays were more aligned on his side, then we could have had a completely different grand final. Having seen that, though, I think that is where I would put my money on the best chance at taking the bounty on Huncho's head finally. If George, he's also one of our most committed players. I see him basically every day in the Telegram chat looking for opponents. Often manages to find them. Sometimes we're a little bit quieter. It's always good if you want to practice at the same time zone. I think he's American based, so after work hours, like East Coast America, then George is usually up for a game. But I would say that is the best chance of taking down Huncho from what I've seen. But who knows? We could see an underdog come from nowhere and also put up a good fight. I think you're going to have the privilege of seeing all the decks that Huncho plays and his play style, so you could even just tech to try to counter it. And I think what is going to be most interesting is the meta shakeup as we introduce all of the 7 Deadly Sins cards and mechanics. That's going to really change the meta. So that's probably the best opportunity to get in, try to learn the new meta, get ahead of the curve, and then potentially take down the next tournament, which is scheduled for March as the Avalanche RTLOL tournament. So yeah, let's see what happens there.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely be interesting, and yeah, very excited to see the community get their hands on 7 Deadly Sins in game, which should happen very soon. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting new decks that we've been sort of testing and trying out from our side, and sort of see how they end up shaking up the metagame. Yeah, I guess the other sort of thing, just before we start really dive into the questions, Mindspheres, just wanted to basically, on behalf of the Raini community, I know you've been incredibly busy, but thank you for joining us on the AMA. And just, yeah, I guess if you can tell us what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, sure. So I have not been super active on socials, but that doesn't mean I haven't been around. That's probably an important thing to say. Well, I mean, as many of you know, I've been hard at work on working on Leonardo, which is a generative AI platform where we're seeking to, I guess, to revolutionize the production of game assets. And it really started as some experimentation while working on the content procurement side for Raini, which has sort of rapidly evolved into a bigger project in of itself with some of the people that I was working with on that. And I mean, it's sort of important to sort of talk about, I guess, how it is and how it will be beneficial to Raini Studios itself as we look to really expand our scope as far as what Raini Studios is, and start to think about the bigger gaming ecosystem that we're seeking to build. I don't want to touch on too much of that because I'm not sure what's been announced and what hasn't. But suffice to say that the tooling that we're building out with Leonardo is extremely useful within the sort of I guess gaming production side for Raini Studios, and as that progresses and as that evolves, I think it will enable Raini to do a lot more with, I guess, with relatively limited resources. If we look at some of the bigger players that we're trying to compete with in this space, and I think that's really exciting. I mean, the use of generative AI tech in the context of asset production really can democratize how we think about games in terms of scope and what's possible with less people, right? I mean, even just looking at the Seven Deadly Sins drop, right? Artkin and Alcatraz. I mean, I think that's an interesting use case, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like obviously AI art tools were incredibly valuable, not only just for some of the actual production use in generating cards for Seven Deadly Sins, but also even in like our pre-production stage. Like for myself as a complete non-artist, to be able to jump in there, just pop in some prompts and use, like Leo has this really cool like prompt tool. So even if you haven't really played around with AI art tools very much, it guides you through the whole process. Super easy to use as a non-artist. So that instead of me doing what I would normally have to do, just sort of trying to write and convey through words to our art team of, hey, we want these cards to look like this, or we want this sort of animation or this sort of effect, being able to use Leo to actually generate like concept cards, and be able to turn around the artist and say, hey, so this might not be the final art, but this should at least convey the mood, the feeling. Like for myself as a non-artist, being able to use Leo for that was incredibly powerful.
Stages and some of the interesting stuff as well, as we think about the future. I don't know if you saw the recent announcement there, Alcatraz, but the generative textures are getting pretty interesting. So
yeah,
to make some innovation there, and we've got generative texturing working for a given 3D model. So that really opens up really cool possibilities around user-driven content creation. The ability to create your own skins for characters, etc. And that's pretty exciting, especially as we think about the sort of future of the Raini Studios roadmap as such, which there's some more announcements I think coming there very soon. But yeah, I think there's definitely something, the real trend, and if we don't want to be, I guess, left behind as a gaming studio, we really need to think about the application of generative AI, because everyone else is. And I think that having access to a team of ML gurus, as it were, is sort of a really big benefit to what we'll be able to do in the future in terms of Raini and the ecosystem that we're building. So that's pretty exciting.
I think
Yeah.
one aspect in particular that I found really useful, which is I don't know if it's been released yet, or I've just seen like the early concept, but it's coming out soon, is the like in painting / canvas tool. So having played around it again, also as a non-artist like Alcatraz, with Midjourney and more recently Leonardo, it's amazing like the quality of art you can produce in such a short space of time, purely based on a prompt. However, the output is kind of like a slot machine. Like sometimes it'll be exactly what you have in mind, sometimes it'll be way off, sometimes it'll be in between. A lot of the time, I found that it'd be close, but there'd be some stuff that I thought was just not where it should be. So I think the in-painting tool is a really useful way to, I guess, get a more efficient experience.
Yeah. Expanded further to include sketching. So instead of just like masking an area and prompting what you want, it's sort of like you can roughly sketch the concept of what you want, and using AI sort of augment your crappy artistic skills, especially in my case, to create something that looks really cool. And if you think about what that means for visual sort of asset production cycles and the length of time that they usually take and the cost, and like it really impacts the scope of what's possible. So, in the context of RTLOL, for example, being able to leverage some of that tooling to augment our artistic production will allow us to really ramp up the scope of even the number of cards that are possible in the game, and what that looks like in the future. I think that's really exciting, right?
Yeah, like it's a super exciting thing for us, obviously, especially on RTLOL, but even just as we are sort of ramping up additional projects and work we're doing. We've obviously announced that we've got a partnership with Campai Pandas, producing mini games like with them. Yeah, any tool we can have access to that allows us to produce top tier content and top tier like game assets in less time, like that's always going to be just a win for everyone. It means that our team is able to produce more stuff quicker. Which, God, that I worded that so badly, but I hope my tone conveys the excitement I have over this, because like anything we can do that allows us to basically just crank out that to use the gaming term, get on the content treadmill sort of thing, is always going to be a huge win for us as a studio.
The other part to that, especially thinking about Web3, is the possibility of involving the community more in the content production process, and I think that's a pretty cool piece as well. Giving users, so for example, there's the potential, and I'm not going to speak out of turn here, I hope, but there's the potential with RTLOL to have actual card creation contests where people can leverage the tooling to do that, and I think that would be something interesting that we should really think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the thought that theoretically, I haven't actually spoke about this yet, but I know I've been thinking along these lines. But like the fact that obviously you can embed data within like NFTs, like theoretically we could embed the seed and literally all the generative data you need, say, on a platform like Leonardo, within like an NFT. Like, so a community member could mint an NFT that has all the data. So not only do they own the asset, but it's also they own that asset to get regenerated at any point. So it's like that extra layer of verification and asset ownership potentially. So yeah, there's so many cool potential possibilities, and I know from the stuff I've seen on Leo, like the stuff that's public at the moment is literally just scraping the surface. That team is, I would say, harder working than Raini Studios, but I would say we're both pretty hard working. It's not a competition, obviously, but yeah, there's so much cool stuff there that's coming up there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. But yeah, cool. Obviously, yeah, a lot of questions I've seen sort of coming through this week. So yeah, Draz, if you want to kick us off, and yeah, let's smash through the community questions. And obviously, I can see there's a couple of questions coming through on YouTube as well. We'll make sure we will answer those too.
I mean, while you're on the subject of Leonardo, do you want to answer Cackling Hatters 23? Is Leonardo entirely owned by Raini?
No, it's not actually. So there are multiple co-founders on that project who are from the some of them from the ML/AI space. So that's So the project is not a wholly owned Raini subsidiary or anything like that. It is a multiple co-founders.
Okay, sweet. I thought I saw a while back, I suppose you guys would move to some sort of pay per month type for the Leonardo platform once you're ready, up and running.
Yeah, so the sort of, from a monetization perspective, the plan there is to sort of maintain a I guess a freemium model of a generous sort of free tier along with paid plans. There's been some discussion around what a Web3 integration could look like, although that's not necessarily that's not really locked in at this stage. So yeah, at the moment it's looking like a initially at least a sort of fiat-based subscription model, freemium service. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic. Obviously, it's for people in that sort of style content generation. It's just an invaluable tool, as you can see from the stuff that gets produced by it. All right, question from Ash the Earther Mafia. Hey guys, is there any future for the use of gold NFTs and Chromans by extension, of course?
Yeah, I'll field that. So I guess it's in relation to the fact that the Golden Chroma Rainy staking pools are about to expire if they haven't already. I think it was about this time last year that we launched one initially on BFC and then Phantom because ETH gas fees were ridiculous. So we took the gas ones across to Phantom. As we flagged, in case you haven't seen the mediums, there is planned to be additional utility for them going forward. The least of which is that they are all going to be counted as legacy infused NFTs once we launch RTLOL, which means they will have a role in boosting your Photon earnings if you deploy them intelligently. So it is a way of, I suppose, indirectly increasing your expected return via Photon. We're always looking at ways to try to add additional utility. So we've spoken about a number of other things, but not a lot is locked in at this point. There's also going to be a pending airdrop, but that was based on a previous snapshot date. So yeah, we're going to be, I guess, revealing more details as we get closer to the full game launch. And the reason for that is that the Photon tokenomics need to be as, I guess, rigorously tested and optimized as possible by the time we launch them. We're in an ever-changing market, and because all of these infused NFTs and Photon airdrops and bits and pieces like that kind of tie into the eventual Photon tokenomics that will launch in June, we just need to make sure that they are all appropriate and balanced and as fair as possible. So it makes more sense for us to just wait to announce the details of that until closer to the launch date, because some of the aspects that influence the tokenomics are still up in the air and may be subject to change. But I guess the short answer is, 100% we're committed to creating additional utility for Golden Chroma NFTs. The main application that you'll see in the immediate horizon is a way to generate more Photon by holding them.
Okay, cool. All right. Just a couple of questions. Oh, sorry, you go.
While we're kind of on the Leonardo topic, do you want to just quickly do that crypto Cloak one from from the YouTube chat?
Yeah, sure. Crypto Cloak has just asked, does Leonardo own any portion of Raini Studios or vice versa? You've already answered the vice versa part, but
yeah, so there's no company equity ownership either direction. No.
Okay, cool.
But obviously, very very strong working relationship between the two, because I mean, you have a shared co-founder between the two there as well, obviously. So
yeah, I think the main immediate benefit is that we are RTLOL and Raini is kind of like the flagship game for Leonardo. So all the successes we have, Leonardo will share. So we get a lot of cross-pollination of communities, and vice versa. It works in both ways. It's a symbiotic relationship. And also we have access to everything Leonardo is building, no matter what premium tier, without having to pay for a whole bunch of subscriptions. Once it becomes paid, we get to field test all of the new features, and we actually get direct input into the direction of the company evolution.
Yeah, I think important to say a lot of the features that are being built are sort of directly as a result of requests from Raini. So
yeah, I mean, like you say, it's a fantastic resource for a gaming studio, obviously, for anything in the future. And 37,000 users on the Discord at the moment, so it's just gone crazy, really, hasn't it? So exposure to that people looking at that would look at Raini and
exactly. And I think that's the big one of the really big benefits there as well, sort of outside of the practical use case, is as the profile of that project grows. Obviously I'm going to be doing a lot of interviews and all that sort of thing. If it all pans out as we expect, it's sort of being billed now on a whole bunch of the YouTube videos as like a mid-journey killer. It has the best platform features of any generative AI platform out there at the moment in terms of the level of control and flexibility and power it gives people. And so I think there's real opportunity there to expansively speak about Raini is a shining example use case of the platform within a gaming context, and that's going to bring a lot more eyes on Raini. And the process of sort of becoming sort of raising this profile also connects us with a lot of people who are adjacent or who work in the gaming space, and gives us the additional possibility to work with them in the context of raising Raini's profile as well. And so there's a lot of, I guess, synergy there as well.
Yeah, most definitely. It's fantastic. During the Telegram, there's a lot of a lot of people started talking about the card rental system again. Riz and Chris T sort of mentioning that the card rental being very important to growing to a bigger client base, and just looking for a few more details, if possible, on that. And a question from Nemesaur in the same thing: will it be possible to rent single cards or just entire decks?
It's a good question, and it's one that comes up pretty frequently in these AMAs. I think our answer is still pretty similar to the previous ones, which is we haven't locked down the details of how the card rental system will look as yet. Again, it's one of those things that comes more into play when we get closer to full game release around June. It being only February, we're just being very mindful about allocating development resources and locking down plans that may change in the course of coming months. But yeah, at this point, our intention is still to implement a good card rental system, if not for full game launch, then shortly after. And yeah, hard to say how that'll look, whether it's full decks or individual cards, but I think we're all quite partial to allowing the free market economy to decide. So if there's enough demand for individual cards and decks, then we would love to implement that ability. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at now, but it's still quite early days, so it's all subject to change. I'd say just keep your eyes peeled, because once we get closer to the full game launch, you'll hear a whole bunch more things about the bigger picture vision that we have for the way we roll this out in terms of the tokenomics and the utility, the NFTs and card rental and everything like that. But at this stage, nothing's been locked in.
And just similar to something I know I've mentioned in a previous AMA as well, with systems such as like the card rental and potentially deck rentals and stuff like that. I think this is actually very related to the question that Idea Chain has just asked. I've just thrown up on screen there as well. One of the things that I believe really does genuinely set our project apart from a lot of other competitors in the Web3 space is our desire and our need to produce things which are very much from a UX first perspective. So if we are going to have card rentals and deck rentals, that has to be done in such a way that is super easy for any user of the game to get in there, see them, understand what's happening, and be able to rent cards and rent decks. If it's a sort of system that becomes overly complicated, the average user is just going to ignore it, and then it doesn't really benefit anybody. And this sort of relates very much into what Idea Chain here is asking, where the option to trade card for cards, like a barter style trading system or like an in-game market. Yeah, I think that would be great. If there was a possibility for us to implement something like that, where it can be very easy within the game. I know I've seen this in the last week in our Telegram, as people are sort of opening up their 7 Deadly Sins packs. I'm seeing quite often like, oh, I've got an extra Pride, for example. Will someone trade for Envy? I'm just picking 2 random cards out here, but you get the idea. So yeah, building systems like that, which takes things which traditionally can be quite hard to do or quite confusing potentially for newer users, and making that as seamless and as easy as possible, will definitely be a focus that we have for all aspects of the project, but especially when it comes to things like the ability to rent cards, the ability to trade, all those sort of things.
Okay, cool. That's card rental. Just a question from Chris T. How long would we expect seasons to last once released? Generally like 4 to 5 months, and then new pack releases and new meta. Do we think that will be similar?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. And internally, we've gone back and forth on a few different options, and we're sort of still in the process of locking down what that's going to look like. Again, important to keep in mind, like I've said a million times, whatever system we go with, obviously we'll take community feedback into account. So if we do launch with theoretically, say, a 3-month season, if that's too short or too long based on community feedback, we're obviously open to adjusting it. We're not going to sort of just stick with one thing regardless. but yeah, the rough plan at this stage, and I need to stress this is still very much up in the air. Like we're still sort of working out the logistics of these sort of systems and how they sort of tie in across a bunch of different other areas of design that they will be impacting. Would be something around, say, a 2 to 3 month season, where in an ideal world, any changes to the meta would happen, say, in the middle of the season, because that gives you a nice sort of balance where players, can get start of the season. You got all the people who will grind to get up leaderboards and stuff like that early on. But then if you have that mix up halfway through, that also one can potentially benefit maybe a different group of players who maybe the meta goes a little bit more control oriented, a little bit more aggressive potentially. So it sort of shifts around the players that might just have like the inherent advantage from their preferred kind of deck. So you sort of get a more balanced overview of who the top players really are on those sort of like leaderboard systems. But yeah, it gives a nice sort of mix up. So otherwise, longer seasons without any meta changes can start to feel quite stale. So yeah, it's important to sort of just keep those things sort of mixed up there a little bit. But yeah, obviously important to stress that's still very much up in the air, as we're still working through a lot of stuff around like tokenomics, economy design, and stuff like that, as we ramp up towards full launch.
Okay, cool. Just a question in the Telegram, Jay, but not that Jay. Why was it decided to put out more collector packs on sale when the ones on AVAX hadn't even sold out yet?
Yeah, I can take this one. So essentially, we're actually super happy and impressed with the level of interest we saw with the initial allocation of packs. Ethereum sold out completely within minutes. Bundles sold out within minutes, and then BSC sold down to 10 packs only. I think that was left at the time we decided to release some more packs. The decision was made to do a final allocation. We did flag in the medium that the initial allocation of 3 bundles and 200 packs per chain was just an initial allocation, and the remaining packs were held in reserve for future distribution use. For example, allocation to more popular chains or for prize usage. We made the call based on the level of interest we saw on the initial release to allocate more bundles to each chain because the bundles were our most popular product. But in order to retain the relative value and rarity, we didn't want to really exceed around 25% of the collector packs as bundles. So any bundle we added, we felt we needed to add an extra corresponding number of collector packs if the demand was there. So although the Avalanche packs hadn't sold out when we made the final allocation, almost everything on Ethereum and BSC had, and all the bundles had, and we didn't actually allocate any further Avalanche collector packs. And we flagged the final allocation. We just didn't want to miss out on the opportunity for people who had a demand for packs, but only the preference, whether it's ideological or just convenience-based, to buy on a certain chain, to have that interest in minting, but not be able to. That was why the decision was made to do the final allocation. And the reason we did it all in one hit instead of staggering it is because we saw such a high demand for the packs on the initial allocation. There was a lot in the air on how popular they would be. Thank you to everyone who showed your support and bought some packs. It's definitely going to help our runway and our reinvestment in development and marketing efforts. But that's kind of the logic behind why we decided to make the final allocation all in one hit. And then there are never going to be any more collector packs or Chad bundles for 7 Deadly Sins that will be released for minting. So that's basically it.
Okay, sweet. That sort of answers Mal Bolio's question, I suppose. Is it possible to withdraw multiples of 17 packs from the chains and release more bundles? But you've already just answered that, really.
Yeah, at this stage, we just want to try to, for the integrity and the people who, were supportive enough to get on and get the bundles and buy within this window where there's a 10% discount until I think just over 24 hours from now that expires. Yeah, we want to make sure that they're actually seeing the value there rather than chopping and changing too much. So the plan at this stage is just to leave the remaining collector packs as they are, and then they'll be available for any new entrants to the game as we market. You know, I'm speaking at a sponsored panel at ETH Denver in a couple of weeks. We're speaking to a lot of people at DICE, so we're going to make big efforts to try to grow the player base now that we've got the standalone build. It's good that they have an opportunity to buy some packs just off the market. Yeah, that's kind of the plan at the moment.
Fantastic. Is with regard to the standalone and playing, I've just started getting into the game a lot more myself lately, but at times, depending on time zones, it's hard to find a player. You guys are working on an AI. How far away is that?
I can take that one. So version 095 should be going out for everyone in the next, say, 24 hours or so. It was meant to go out last night, but we had some issues with Elixir, unfortunately. So yeah, that should be fixed up and should be live in the next, say, 24 hours. When you play through that, one of the big things in 095 is you'll see that we've actually added in the rest of the tutorial. So there's now the 3 tutorial levels all built in. So definitely give those a try. We'd definitely love any feedback that you have, mostly from the perspective of we've tried to make it so that if you had no idea about RTLOL at all, and even if you've never played trading card games before, you should be able to play through those 3 tutorials and get a good idea of how the game works. The 3rd tutorial opponent is actually against an early version of the AI that we are looking at rolling out to do full bot matches with. So give that a try. Obviously, being a tutorial level, they're like set decks. You can't sort of go in there and use any deck at this stage, but that will give you at least a bit of a taste of how that will work. And then, yeah, so we're still currently testing out the full bot match mode. One of our devs has been working super hard on that. That's coming along really nicely. I don't want to give an ETA on that at this stage because, I mean, as I'm sure Mindspheres will be able to attest, anytime you're working with machine learning or AI, things can get very, very complicated very, very quickly. But yeah, I would hope that
I feel like that's true for any kind of development. It's best laid.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I always love the fact that in game development, especially, but just pretty much any development, just systems that shouldn't be linked at all just somehow manage to break each other and stuff like that. There was a game I worked on last year. I can't say what the company was, but they're one of the largest media companies in the world. Where it's a multiplayer game. It comes out actually very, very soon. I'll be able to talk about it soon. Where we made some changes to the way the multiplayer cars worked, and the menu broke as a result, because somehow someone else who was working on the menu system had coded it in so that the speed of the car affected some of the menu animations, and just game dev things. But
developmental
AI,
butterfly effects.
AI complicated. So we'll get it out as quick as we can. But again, we're not going to roll it out if it isn't up to the level of standard and quality that hopefully you've all come to expect from the work that we do. But yeah,
I would also just add in kind of a segue addendum to that answer. It kind of was featured in the rollout of the 7 Deadly Sins mint over the last week. Whenever we set our deadlines, we make our best guess as to when everything will be ready to release. However, with testing and once it comes down to the nitty-gritty of actually building it, more often than not, there's a lot of extra features. So when we make a deadline, it's not usually just because we got lucky and the estimate was right. It's usually because our developers have done like 20-hour days, weekends and stuff to try to fix all the unforeseen issues that popped up. And when we don't, it's usually that in spite of doing that, there's still more that needed to be done. It's caused some unfortunate but unavoidable delays at that point. So yeah, development is a tricky beast, but if we want to maintain the level of quality that we always strive towards consistently across all our offerings, then yeah, unfortunately, there's going to be some delays, and that's why we'll always put out like tentative schedule and then aim to get it to you then. But unfortunately, there may be some delays in this sort of fast-paced crypto gaming world.
Okay. Just a question, but just about Photon's rollout. How will Photon be rolled out, and are we using a launch pad?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have had a lot of discussions with Avalanche and Trader Joe. We have really good relationships with both of them. Both of them have basically expressed interest in helping us with an IDO. So, you know, nothing is set in stone at this point, but I would signal that our intention is to use one or both of those, I guess, launch pads to help us do the IDO of Photon. That'll be around June, if everything goes according to plan. Yeah, and so we're super excited to be working with them. Photon is going to be an Avalanche, probably exclusive token. We're not looking to have a multi-chain exposure to Photon. And the main reason for that is it's not like we're bound to just put our token on the Avalanche ecosystem, even though they're big supporters of us and we'd love to work more with them. It's more just that spreading the liquidity of a token too thin is not good for anyone. It's just good to have concentrated liquidity so that, you know, if you want to make a big purchase or a big sale, you can do so confidently. Spreading it across 4 or 5 different chains can be really, counterproductive. Whereas on the other hand, we're pretty committed to maintaining cross-chain compatibility for NFTs, because there's no real downside there. There's no like liquidity pool that you have to be invested in. You can just kind of go to the chain and buy the individual NFT as you like.
Excellent. That was a question from Daniel. Just question here. Will we be able to buy next season packs with rainbows and unicorns? I suppose like the old style of buying. Will there be exclusive packs only available to be bought with rainbows, unicorns?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the next pack drop will be the 2nd edition packs. So cards that people have been playing with for months now in alpha testing. We haven't yet locked in the system for that. So please send through your feedback. I know there's been some concerns about the raffle and auction system. And there has been a lot of benefits to using it as well. We'll probably use a combination. We might do like some raffles, some auctions, and potentially some first come, first serve. But there will absolutely be card packs available to be purchased just with rainbows and unicorns. We're committed to every card pack drop we do for RTLOL having a discrete difference between the public packs that can be purchased with AVAX or ETH or BNB or equivalent, and then the Raini packs that can just be purchased with rainbows and unicorns, whether it's by raffle tickets, auctions, or just first come first serve buying or another system. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm just looking at a question here from Crypto Cloaker Online. Have you considered relaunching the Raini token with the correctly apportioned supply to each chain and omitting the initial burn mechanic? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, wow. That's a really interesting and on-point question. We have definitely considered that. We have spoken to some people about it, but we have not locked in anything as yet. So we'll see what happens. Our main intention is just to do whatever it takes to make Raini Studios, and especially RTLOL as our flagship game, as successful as possible over the long term. So whatever we think is going to give us the best opportunity to get us there, we're open to all possibilities. But at this point, nothing's been locked in of that sort of style of change.
I mean, what would that do? How would that actually physically work, I suppose, considering all the Rainis that are owned by people out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of many questions that we've started looking at if this pans out. It would only really make sense to even consider something like that if there was a substantial level of support or interest from VCs or key partners, or like centralized exchanges. So a big portion of the new tokens go to actually giving centralized exchange listing, just all things that would actually boost the underlying value of the Raini token. If we didn't get all of that, then it's just not something we would consider proceeding with. So it's just something that some people have suggested in the past, so we've had some discussions about, but by no means have we committed to anything, because the terms of what would be looking at on that basis have not been solid enough to give value to the Raini token. So we'll see if that changes in the future.
Okay.
But
cool.
yeah, sorry, Draz, just to come back to your original question. Yeah, it's up in the air. Like it depends.
Yeah.
It can take a lot of forms, but nothing's been looked at.
No, that's fantastic. You guys are always extremely considerate, obviously, of any decision to be made, for the value of the project and the token, for sure. Just a couple of questions here, just on RTLOL in general. From Lewis Richter, will there be lore to the heroes in RTLOL?
Helps if I unmute my microphone, doesn't it? Yes, is the short answer to that question. When will we release that lore? I think the best answer there is when we find the best way to do that. I know there's been interesting ways. I've seen some other projects do it where they release, maybe like little web comics, or just through in-game, potentially if we built out more say single player content, which if you understand what's required to build single player content, and you understand the fact that we're working on a bot mode for RTLOL at the moment, there's obviously potential overlaps there in terms of being able to get the most value out of the work that we do. So yeah, a lot of it will really just come down to will there be lore? Absolutely. When will you see that? When we find the most fun way to deliver that to the players, is probably the best answer there. Although Artkin, you might have other thoughts on that.
I'd just add that we've actually got internal documents that detail it's kind of like a reference of the lore for the RTLOL universe, or the Rainiverse, that we use as a reference. We could probably post that as just a comedic little white paper, but we haven't decided whether that's the best way to do it. However, I would say that that's something that we refer back to in our game design and all of our future considerations, just to make sure we're building a consistent and immersive universe, so that whenever we find the best way to, kind of roll out the lore, it's going to make sense. We don't want a lot of inconsistencies, and we don't want anything like that. So yeah, we actually engaged a quite accomplished and I guess comedic content writer. He'd worked on Gods Unchained before, and has written up a pretty extensive summary of the lore. So it's just a matter of whether we want to refine that any further and publish it, or whether we want to release it in other ways. But 100% there will be lore, just not sure in which format that'll be rolled out to the community.
I mean, I guess, yeah, if any community members have thoughts around that, just, reach out on all our socials, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys would prefer us to just publish the white paper of the several pages of just kind of the background of how the game came to be from an immersive lore perspective, let us know. Otherwise, we're just going to keep discussing it and work out what we think is the best call. But we're always super keen to hear from you guys on what your preference would be, or what you think is going to be the most effective option.
I mean, none of it has to be set in stone, but I think pretty sure most people would like to see that, I suppose, if it was available. But obviously, you're not going to be locked in on any of it because it's evolving, I imagine.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
we'd probably just have to actually check the document and actually format it a little bit. It's very much just the internal ad hoc document at the moment with a bunch of stuff. But yeah, we can definitely look at doing that.
Yep. Cool. No pressure. Couple more questions. Do we know if This is from Yuri on the Telegram. Do we know if pride affects only the creatures that are on the board at the time when you play it, or is it a lasting effect throughout the game?
Yep, that's a great question. I saw this question come through during the week, and I'm pretty sure I just responded. I'll answer it on the AMA. So pride is a spell. So basically, it's a once-off effect on cards on the board, which is also why it has that interesting follow-on effect of it ends your turn the second you play it. Obviously, it's a pink card. There are a lot of ways in pink to buff your health. So coincidentally, this is a great combo card or combo piece to have alongside the other pink cards. But because it does have that sort of combo potential, and in testing early on, we realized that this very easily became a one-hit KO sort of spell. That's why we do basically force it to end your turn. So at the very least, your opponent has their next turn to respond to whatever could potentially happen as a result of that. But yeah, it's a once-off. Basically, the game internally takes a snapshot when you play the card of what every minion's health is exactly at that point in time, and it basically just overwrites everyone's health with that number. And then any effects that could be affecting a minion's power sort of get applied over that. So some of the seasons, for example, that can give you positive or negative effects to power. So like, say, for example, you had a minion with 100 health, and you played Pride with a meme coin mania in play. It'll end up at 110 power after the spell resolves. So it applies the health across, and then like seasons and ongoing effects will get applied on top of that new number.
Yeah, so cards like Aurora are quite powerful in combination with Pride, because if you play Aurora, then you're getting the plus 20 HP. If they have symmetrical power and HP, then you buff the HP a little bit. It's still benefiting from that 20 implicit Aurora buff, but then it will set the power to be equal to the HP based on that snapshot, and then Aurora will apply, and you'll get that 20 bonus power. So it's kind of double benefiting from the Aurora effect indirectly.
And yeah, anyone interested in Pride should probably go back and watch last week's AMA, where we went through all of the cards in 7 Deadly Sins. Because if I'm not mistaken, there's a card in there somewhere that has quite a lot of HP, which could be very interesting when combined with Pride. So yeah. But yeah, obviously you'll start seeing all these cards in game very, very soon, and be able to start playing around with them yourselves.
Awesome. And George asked, just to clarify, all these cards, once they are released, they'll be stakeable for the period?
So I'll answer this one. Just in terms of the staking, the X Photon staking was designed as a means of providing like an additional upside purely for Genesis cards, because there was going to be such a long period of time between when the Genesis cards were released and when they would actually have in-game utility. Like you need to own or unlock the card to play with it. We're coming to the end of the development cycle now, so the full game launch should be coming in a few months. So it's unlikely we're going to implement staking benefits for 7 Deadly Sins or promo cards. It's purely meant to be just an extra bonus for the Genesis cards specifically. So yeah, that's the point of the stage.
Okay, cool. All right, that's fine. There's a question's been asked on Telegram and just here by Yuri and Idea Chain, possibly the same. But is Raini playable on Linux at the moment?
Yep, I can take that one. No. Also, short answer, no. As in, we do not currently release or plan to release a Linux executable version of RTLOL. There's 2 reasons for that. One is just the plain and simple version answer that Linux represents an incredibly small percentage of the gaming community, and at the end of the day, we are a team that has like a limited amount of resources, and we just have to look at where our player base as a whole gets the most value. Is it working on, say, a Linux just like executable, or is it putting improvements into the bot mode, or improving matchmaking or things like that? So it's always, every part of game development is always a toss up of what feature or what area of development will give the most value back to the players. And yeah, a Linux version of the game, unfortunately, just does not fall very high in that list at all. The second part to keep in mind with that, and if you are a Linux gamer, you'd be well aware of this, there is a bunch of different systems available to you on Linux to run Windows executables. Wine being the old one, but there's a bunch of modern ones too. A lot of them being driven now by the Steam Deck development. So feel free to reach out to me on say Telegram if you are trying to run RTLOL on Linux, because I guarantee you we can probably get it up and running without actually requiring any dev work, just some fiddling with stuff on the back end. But yeah, unless we saw an astronomical uptick in demand from Linux gamers, I wouldn't expect a Linux build anytime soon.
Okay, thank you. Loth Hank, just when will the Lucky Door winners of the Campai Pandas tournament be announced?
Yeah, cool. So with doing all the prize drawing for the Campai Pandas tournament, we were waiting until the finals are finished so we can basically organize it all at once. The same as we did for the February tournament. I'll basically do all the raffles and all that, all the Lucky Door prizes all at once. I'll do a video record. So the way we did it for February, we're in February. The way we did it for January, sorry, I lose track of months, let alone days, is basically in our Telegram, I post a message saying, hey, about to do the draw. And I just screen record my screen, and you'll see me post that message, run the draw, and then I'll post when it's done, and I'll upload that video. We usually just upload it as an unlisted video on YouTube, but the link for the video is posted on our Telegram. That way everyone can see it. They know that video was recorded basically live, and that the results are generated Randomly. And then we'll post it and send out all the prizes. One thing I just
wanted to add there is we have been speaking to some potential partners we're connecting with at ETH Denver. The fireside chat I'm going to be a part of is hosted by Super Oracles, and they have an on-chain VRF function that they're happy for us to try the testnet of. So maybe we'll use that if we can get it up in time for the tournament draw, rather than the spin the wheel thing that we did last time. But that's the only thing I'll add. Everything else is going to be the same as last time, and very soon is the bottom line. Sorry. Just you, Alcatraz.
Yeah. Obviously, however we draw it, we'll get the prizes out as quick as we can. But yeah, just obviously we were waiting on the final results for that as well.
Excellent, mate. That's pretty well it for the questions in all the chats. So I don't know if you wanted to summarize or close off, whatever you guys want to do. That's great.
I might just add on to the last answer and question. In addition to drawing all the Lucky Door prizes, after we get the last couple of bits and pieces online for the 7 Deadly Sins drop, which is card minting, should be coming within the next day or so, hopefully. And then auctions, we're hoping that sometime this week. We also want to implement bridging from Avalanche to at least Ethereum, just for those who want to take their NFTs. But now that we're coming to the end of that and we've launched our V2 card collections, we can finally mint and airdrop the promo cards that were won previously. So super aware that we have 10 Campai Pandas, 10 Chubby Aliens, and 10 Avalanche cards that we need to send to Gleam or pre-mint contest winners. And they should be going through within the next couple of weeks as well, if you're one of the lucky ones who won one.
Okay, there's just one more question, I suppose, popped up from Idea Chain. Any plans for making Rainy playable on smartphones? I know that we've talked about mobiles, and it's down the track, obviously, but just quick elaboration if you can, Alcatraz or whoever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely something that's on the plans for us to do. But again, I know I've said this on previous AMAs as well. We pride ourselves on our level of quality we put into our game and everything we do. If we're going to do a mobile version, it won't be just a hacky port like some other Web3 TCGs have maybe done recently. We're going to actually put the time and effort into it to make sure the UX is on par with what you would expect from a mobile first experience. So yeah, that does mean there's actually a lot more work involved in producing a mobile version of what you might think. A lot of menus need to get redesigned. We have to look at how you tap and drag cards onto the field. How do we accommodate people on smaller phones, bigger phones? How do we accommodate for like the new flip phones that like Samsung and some other manufacturers are bringing out? What happens when that phone gets closed? Should we transfer the games to the front screen? Should we only allow it to be played on the inside screen? And like I'm sure I've mentioned this before on the AMAs, but yeah, I've got many years of experience in mobile that I'll be leveraging for a lot of this work. But yeah, definitely we're keen to do it. But again, we're going to make sure we do it in the right way. And at this stage, I wouldn't be expecting a mobile version of RTLOL before full launch.
No, of course, definitely not before full launch. I remember reading something from Hearthstone one time where they were talking about their game really took off once they went mobile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge potential. It just takes a lot of development. So, and I guess the other thing I should say is whether it's mobile gaming or just Web 2 gamers in general, you only have one chance to make a first impression. So we've really been working hard over the last year and a half on building the best game possible. We're really confident with where it's at now, actually. There's only a few minor polish tools and bits and pieces and some more card variety and depth to add to get it to where we want it to be. So I guess then the next priority going into after the full game launch, it's probably our top priority after full game launch is iOS and Android, just because, I mean, I think it's folly to underestimate the value of just that accessibility of smartphone. I think a lot of people play these sort of games on the toilet, so it's hard to do that from a computer.
It looks, I mean, I've watched a couple of games on the phone. I haven't obviously never played it, but it looks fantastic on a phone, tiny little cards and things like that. So you could see how it would play very nicely on there. Yeah, look, that'll be fantastic. Crypto Cloak just asked, is end of Q2 still anticipated as a full launch date?
Yep, 100%. We're still looking at late Q2 for full game launch, including Photon token.
Fantastic.
Not really much to add to that. Yes.
Yes, and that's pretty well the end of the questions that have popped up, guys.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, we'll wrap it up there. We'll actually have an AMA that actually goes for roughly the hour that we plan for these. But as always, just a huge thank you, obviously, Draz, for collating the questions for us, and for our community for giving us plenty of questions to answer for you all each week. Any final thoughts, final words, Arkan, Mindspheres?
No, I want to reiterate, my gratitude for all of you guys for, jumping in today, contributing to questions. We always really love hearing as much as possible. And, if you don't ask, then we may be unaware of what your concerns are or what you're thinking. And not just questions, but also suggestions. We're always really happy to receive them. I think we want Raini to be a game that is built not just by developers, but also by the community in true Web3 spirit. Look forward to continuing to build that with you guys going forward. Only other thing is, just like I said earlier, if you want to get one of the last collector packs for 7 Deadly Sins, there's a 10% discount that expires in about 25 or 26 hours, and then they go back to full price. So if you want to get it a bit cheaper, now's the time to do it. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything else. Love you all, and that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us for this chat. And I mean, I was going to say basically what you said, Arkan. I think it's great that Web3 is so embracing of this sort of community engagement and really a sort of collective approach to building something together, I think is really just really great. So yeah, as always, love all the input from everyone and all the questions and everything. So yeah, until next time.
Cool. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll catch you around the Rainiverse.